a bunch of billionaires in Washington who are playing Russian roulette with our retirement.
Wait a fucking minute. We've been having a bunch of fucking billionaires playing Russian roulette with our retirement already. But they're the ones that been playing with it, a bunch of legal line lawyers. Now we got Donald Trump and he ain't playing with it. He's gonna fix the shit to make sure the shit works properly without any fucking waste.
God damn it.
$2 trillion deficits don't bother you at all. How do you ask me while we're running $2 trillion deficits and not care? You're destroying the people who have run this country before, are destroying the future for my children and my children's children. I can't have a 50, 75, we have a $36 trillion
Deficit.
And if we used to run deficits of $400 billion, now $2 trillion, everyone's who cares? I tell you what, who cares? Donald Trump cares.
None.
And when we balance the budget, you know what that means? That means we're deficits. Stop.
Yep.
Interest rates can smash them down. His goal is to have external revenue. You know, the way I think about it, we all are so used to paying taxes. We're so used to it. We have like Stockholm syndrome. You know, don't stop the Internal Revenue Service, God forbid. How about this? The rest of the world leans on our country, breeds on our country. Not only is our economy $29 trillion GDP, but we consume $20 trillion a year. We are the buyer of everybody's stuff. We buy everybody's stuff. So who's more important? If you sell stuff or the people buy stuff. So we are the buyer of everybody's commodities, products, goods and services. Everything comes from us. Right? Let them pay a membership fee. We all understand that model. Let them pay. How about we, you and I, and every single person don't pay less? How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. It's no tax. Anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his goal. So that's what I'm doing.
Now, the reason Trump hasn't come out and just said this yet, the reason it's not in the Republican platform is because it's all fluid right now. All this comes down to negotiation. If these other countries agree to drop their tariffs to zero, that could change the calculus. That, too, would be a huge win for America's middle class, for the working class. See, it's a win-win scenario for the U.S. Whichever way this shakes out, America wins. Something these other countries are now realizing. This morning, the White House announcing that over 50 countries came rushing to begin tariff negotiations with Trump since yesterday. Roll the tape.
I got a report from the USDR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S. because I think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreeing to remove all tariffs against the United States, posting this message on X. Today, we cancel all of the customs duties levied on products from the United States, Israel's largest trading partner. This current effort will allow us to further strengthen the alliance and ties between Israel and the U.S. We will continue to work to reduce barriers and customs and bolster our special relationship with the United States. Netanyahu saying the U.S. is Israel's largest trading partner. That's the key to this. The U.S. is the largest importing nation on the planet. There's not even a second or a close second. That's what Trump has figured out decades ago. There's no chance any country can live without America's markets. Now we learn Vietnam and Taiwan have capitulated, offering to remove all U.S. tariffs and increase investment in the United States. Trump posting Friday that he had a very productive call with the head of the Vietnamese Communist Party, who offered to cut their U.S. tariffs to zero. Lam requesting that the U.S. not apply any additional tariffs for at least 45 days after April 9th. Trump clearly rejecting that, telling them all you have to do to remove the 46% levy is make a deal. Then we learned this morning, Taiwan's president, Sunday morning, offered to remove all U.S. tariffs, bring them to zero, and agreed to no retaliation as his first step in negotiations with the United States. This is exactly what Trump said would happen. Meanwhile, this is causing prices to come crashing down. Like we've been saying for months, the panic about inflation due to tariffs is just wrong. Tariffs are inherently deflationary, not inflationary. In the last week, Treasury...
Man, we've been having legal line lawyers running our fucking business too fucking long, man. That's the fucking truth right there.
Well, expected to fall below 6% in the 5s. Over the next few weeks, expect mortgage rates in the 5s. Grocery prices falling, egg prices crashing, energy crashing. Look at crude futures, down 20% since Trump's inauguration. Gas prices crashing. All of these price adjustments just now beginning to be noticed.
What the president has secured the border. Border crossings are down 95%. He is supporting tens of thousands of people who have been dangerous, including murderers from New York City. He is also making sure that we've seen mortgage rates come down, inflation has come down, egg prices have come down. These are things you cannot ignore. It's been he's brought home over or around a dozen hostages, people who were held overseas, and he within 2 months was able to get them back. So is there a little concern about the market? Absolutely there is. I think it is a little bit of an over-exaggeration by the market at this moment, and I would equate it to a little turbulence as you move to smooth skies. But you've seen trillions of dollars in investment. You've seen companies saying that they're going to expand operations here. And, of course, the great jobs report the other day, nearly 250,000 new jobs.
Yet another story, RFK Jr. continues to remake America's health policy and health infrastructure, ridding the lobbyists and donors from HHS, including restructuring the job schedule in this country. This week, RFK firing the FDA's vax chief, Dr. Peter Marks, someone who's been behind so much of jab policy in this country for years, a huge proponent of Anthony Fauci's gain-of-function efforts, someone who the media is coming to bat for, coming out to defend, and fearmonger about the repercussions of letting this guy go. Watch fired Peter Marks go on CNN to issue, of all things, a biowar warning, saying, I can't go into all the details, but there are man-made threats that we were, he said, prepared to deal with until Bobby Kennedy. What? Watch.
Also,
Who knows?
Driller, I'm sending you that hacking program. When you get in the car, you need to get on it and start breaking into their system.
behind a group now gutted that was ready to respond to natural and man-made threats. At any given time, there were many, many viruses that could come, things like Ebola and others that could be very dangerous to our country. We had a group that was prepared to deal with those. Additionally, I can't go into all the details, but there are man-made threats that we were prepared to deal with. Having that capacity means that today I believe we are weaker as a nation, and I believe our adversaries know that we are weaker as a nation because we don't have that capacity.
And RFK's stewardship of HHS is just beginning. From what I understand, there's a ton happening over there at the largest of all federal agencies, but due to all the moves Trump keeps making, we barely hear about it. He has the media spread so thin, covering everything from tariffs to the border to these like activist judges and everything else. But Bobby Kennedy is fighting the battle, fighting a good fight inside HHS right now. Big Pharma is doing everything they can to prevent the mass change Trump's trying to make to deliver his MAGA agenda. On Friday, RFK's right-hand man, Callie Eames, was interviewed at this Politico event. The audience packed with these anti-MAGA lobbyists. Watch as they all gang up on him, Politico and the audience, thinking they can bully him into capitulation. Watch how well that goes for them. Over there.
Well, right now, it seems like the first priority has actually been to make a lot of cuts. This week, there's news of massive cuts to HHS. At this point, about a quarter of HHS's 82,000 employees have left or are expected to be terminated. So, just some of the changes here. You've laid off big chunks of offices in charge of vaccine and drug research, HIV/AIDS research, AI, funding for services for the elderly and low-income people, STD prevention, rural health, with very little lead time. What do you say to people in the public who are concerned now about drug safety, about whether we're prepared for the next pandemic when these cuts have happened so hard so fast?
Yeah, I'd say to the reporters in the room and the lobbyists in the room, I mean, obviously make your case, but I truly ask for, as you're making it, a little bit of humility about what the voters were trying to say by putting Bobby Kennedy Jr. in this position of power. I would a little bit of humility to ask why Bobby Kennedy, along with President Trump, are the two most popular political figures in America by far. What the voters were trying to say, and I think they were right, is the system is really on the wrong track. That the existing health authorities, just demonstrably, the NIH oversaw, and this is just consensus at this point, the literal creation of a pandemic. The NIH, whose goal is to promote American health, has overseen the devastation, just an abject devastation in American health over the past 20 years, with disease rates skyrocketing in America, leading the world of almost every single chronic disease, with rates of nearly every single chronic disease being at an all-time high among kids. There's been very little innovation with small pharma, with innovative therapeutics at the FDA. It costs $1 billion to get through the process. CMS is an agency that's the much larger budget than Defense Department, that's controlled by the American Medical Association, which is a pharmaceutical lobbying group and is almost predominantly sick care. So there's real problems, and you know, when you turn on CNBC, it's just a nonstop. It's a nonstop infomercial for pharma. It's a Sky Rizzi commercial followed by Scott Gottlieb saying how Bobby's killing people, followed by a breathless coverage of the measles outbreak, and no mention of
But Kelly,
the mental health crisis.
how does funding a bunch of HHS
It is
solve that
insane.
problem?
It is insane. It is insane for you to insinuate that the thing standing between us and better health is more government bureaucrats. Like
That's not what it is.
that is what everyone's saying. It is absolutely insane to insinuate that it's some crime.
It's not all bureaucrats. It's a lot of scientists, it's researchers, it's people who are making sure that
Those scientists fundamentally have overseen, just demonstrably, a record of utter failure. It would be insane. Is that funny? Is that not true? I'd love to hear how. So what metrics would you guys point to for how the scientific community, how the 4 times more per capita on healthcare spending that we spend in America versus other countries has produced innovation? Has there been one single chronic disease medication in modern American history that has lowered rates of chronic disease? It is appropriate that the American Academy of Pediatrics right now, which is 90% funded by pharma, is pushing Ozempic on 6-year-olds.
So
That is what the medical authorities are doing.
why not then use the power that you guys have to push the existing infrastructure in that direction instead of slashing it altogether?
It's not slashing. It's taking it back to 2017 levels. That's not slashing. The amount of bureaucrats.
More like 2002
there's
levels,
a fundamental. In many cases, it's actually just not that much. But it is cutting. What is it? 40,000 people. It's taking it back to. It's taking the HHS back to 68,000 employees. It is absolutely like the idea that Bobby Kennedy should not come in and make dramatic changes to the leadership and the personnel at these authorities that have overseen an abject devastation of American health, which the lobbyists in this room do not have the humility to admit that we have gone completely wrong. The lobbyists in this room laughing when we have the sickest children in the developed world. If you guys, that is your attitude, and your attitude is to tell the Maha moms that their votes and their voice is not legitimate, that we need dramatic changes to American healthcare. If you think it is illegitimate for Bobby Kennedy to not make big changes to people like Peter Marks, who once again and again went against FDA advisory opinions, who fired the 2 top vaccine makers, the 2 top vaccine scientists at the FDA for suggesting that we shouldn't mandate COVID shots for soldiers, who continually went against expert opinion in favor of the pharmaceutical industry, who many people here were collaborating with him with.
The fact that something like that can't be fired and he can't install tremendous people like Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Oz to start reforming these agencies and put in their people, of course he should do that. That's what people voted for.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.